So I'm going to try to keep this as simple as I can. I'm going to show everything I'm doing over here in the Explorer. If you're absolutely new to the studio, in the View tab, you can enable Explorer in the Properties menus right here. And also a lot of things new developers don't know about. Right click, Insert Object. This is where you have all your fun stuff. You can also do it in the Explorer. I have a guide written in here, so just in case this video doesn't work out for you, you need a more technical explanation, the guide comes with the kit. It's in the README script. But I'm going to be doing a video tutorial on all of these things. So the first thing you need to do for adding weapon is you need the weapon model. So here's a tool I just found in the catalog. You can see it's got all this stuff on it. We don't want any of that. You gotta make sure you can't drop it. Set the texture ID to nothing. Tooltip, you don't want that stuff. Delete all this extra stuff. You don't need it. What you need is the mesh, the handle. That's pretty much all. Name the sword wherever you want. I'll call it Crimson Sword. So now we have a sword model. You also probably want the tool grip editor plugin by Clone Trooper. I will link that. It'll be in the description. But this plugin helps you modify this stuff, how you hold it. Alright, the sword model. You have the sword model, now you need all the extra stuff. The sword system can read all that. The sword system can read all that stuff. The template place comes with all these swords. All starter swords, they're all set up properly already. You'll see they have all these values. Just copy all of them. If it's a sword, copy the sword stuff. If it's a staff, copy the staff stuff. They all have different things going on there. The things you should modify are the cooldown, cooldown 2, and you can feel free to modify these two if you want. If you want to add an animation, you can go ahead, animation editor, do your animation thing. In the animation editor, if you save an animation, it'll, let me show you. Say I have this animation here. It's for swords. Do a simple swing animation. I have that created already. So if you have an animation you've created, you go File, Save, name whatever you want. I'll just do sword. Save. You'll find in the dummy anim saves, you'll find this. You'll find exactly what you just saved. You want to copy that. You want that in the animations folder. That's where you put it. There you go. Now I know the custom animation system for this game is not perfect. I don't know. It's my first time making a custom animation system, but it works for the most part. I couldn't use Roblox's animation system because they never made sharing animations possible. So this is what we have to work with. Anyway, now I have an animation here. I just deleted it because I already have one. It's called R15 attack. And for the use animation, I have set that to R15 attack. If I don't have it set, I can just click on it, go over to R15 attack, click it. Same thing with the sounds, but instead you're going to want to find sound effects. Adding a sound is pretty simple. You could either find one or you could have one of your own. Say I wanted to add like sword. Actually, you know what? I have one of my own. If you want to add a sword swoosh sound like that, click on it. It's there. Just make sure that it's in the sound effects folder. You can go ahead and set the value just like we did for the animation. Now you have the sword set up, all these values in here. That's pretty much it. The sword system is mostly automatic. But you'll notice there's no way, there's no way to get the sword. You have two options here. You could either have an enemy drop it and give it a chance to drop, or you could have it in the shop. If you want to add a weapon drop, you can add it to here. It doesn't have to be a weapon specifically, but here's what you do. You add a drops folder. Basically, you just click insert object, find a folder, and then name it drops. Insert another folder inside of this one, name it an item. Because we made it called Crimson Sword, name it Crimson Sword. Inside of this, insert a number value, and we're going to call it drop chance because that's what the system looks for. Make sure you make sure you've spelled everything exactly right. That's important. So this drop chance has to be a number between 0 and 100. It can be 100, but it can't be 0. It's a percentage. So you want it to be a 50% drop, 50. That's it. But the default drop that I already have in most of these enemies is a health potion. It'll have 5% drop in Goblin. But yeah, that's that for a weapon. If you want to add it to a shop, that's later in the video. Now adding an enemy is way easier, except if you want to add like custom attacks, it's relatively easy. You have to kind of script a little bit for that, but I'll show you exactly what I did for this. So these guys aren't normal, they do this. Crazy little attack I made for them. Basic way they work is do damage to players in an area if they're close enough, while they have the attack running. But to do that, I had to script something. I'll show you exactly what I did. In the RPG system script, there's a function called attack. This is run every now and then on an enemy whenever a player gets within their attack range, which is also something you set in an enemy. Enemies folder. Get in server storage, you find your enemies folder. There's 3 default enemies. You got the goblin, this thing, and the sand elemental. This thing's a boss. It has 2 different attacks, and I'll show you how I did that too. So if you want to add an enemy, maybe a basic enemy like a goblin. They don't really do much. They're just here. You can change up the model a little bit. Say I wanted to change the face to something like, oh, this is stupid. Say I wanted to change the face to something cool. I have the face changed. There you go. Take away the ears. You could change it up a little bit. Now he's beautiful. Yeah, I just kind of slapped something on there. Wait. You must change their name. Make it something cool. Make it something you want to name them. Put spaces where there need to be spaces in the name. Don't be afraid. Say I want to name him Big Man. Capitalize the M because it looks better. The reason I want you to put spaces is because this is the actual name that the name tag uses. So whatever you put here will show up on the name tag. The defense is kind of like a damage cap, but not the way you would think. You have to do a set amount of damage before you can actually start doing damage. So if you do 10 damage and it has 5 defense, you're going to only do 5 damage. If you do 6 damage and it has 5 defense, you're going to do 1 damage. Kind of that idea. But if you do less than the defense, then it will just do 1 damage. If you set the defense to 0, then you'll be fine. All damages work. How much XP you need to level up is something you can change also if you want to change that. The default is 50. You need 50 more XP every time you level up to get to the next rank. I need to stop saying level, it's called rank. But yeah, replicate storage server settings, you can mess with some things here. There's a minimum and maximum so you don't have to give a static amount. Same with the gold. And also the damage, of course. The rank is just entirely for show. You can set this to whatever you want. It does not affect anything. It just shows up on the name tag. But yeah, change all of these based on what you want to do. The enemy type controls the AI. This is how the server side, the RPG system, determines how to handle this enemy. The default enemy will just look for a player, and if there's a player, it'll attack. But with the sand elemental, I did a little bit of scripting here, made some effects. This part I had to get rid of because animation share, please. But yeah, you will need to know how to do some code for this part. Feel free to look at this, what I already have written here for help. You can even add on to it if you want. But I'm not going to go into in depth with that since this is a simple tutorial. But that's how you do this. The enemy, the guy, the thing, he's now once your enemy's done, slap that bad boy in server storage enemies, and he's there now. He's an enemy. If you do add your own enemy type, you're gonna need to make a folder in enemy types, or just duplicate one and mess with it. But just know that this stuff will need to be here. So if I wanted to add an area, say I wanted to add an area like this, what I'm gonna do is select the area and then duplicate it. I'll put it somewhere else out of the way. Let's name it something like now that we have a unique name that hasn't been used before, let's change the stuff. So the map, yeah, you can't. It's the same thing. Let's look at that. Wow, it's totally different. Now that we have our different map, now you'll need a spawn location. This needs to be somewhere in the area. So this maximum enemies thing, this is the maximum amount of enemies that could spawn there. And the music, yeah. If you want to add new music, go on RPG client, music, which is also found in the starter player scripts, the starter player. add some sounds in here. You can also do that with the toolbox. You click on IU, you click add song, it's great. Anyway, yeah, to actually set the value of the music, you're gonna have to set it to the name of a song that exists. Everything else is set up besides lighting settings, spawn region. I think we'll do the spawn region first. So you got this thing, right? It's really hard to see. Now that we could see, let's mess with this thing. Now I prefer duplicating one that already exists so I don't have to make all this stuff again. But if you want to, you need a part. Make sure the orientation is zeros because this doesn't really support rotation. It has to be flat. But these spawn regions are little zones that enemies can spawn in. Anywhere that this is covering, an enemy can spawn in this little box. Doesn't matter what the spawn region's name is, but make sure it has been anchored and the can collect is off. Now you'll need a folder called enemies to spawn here, and inside that folder you'll need models. You can't insert models. It doesn't have to be a model. Just something with the name of an enemy. And if that enemy is found in here, it will try to spawn that enemy. You can have multiple of different names. It will spawn a mixed bag of enemies. See, now that we have the spawn region set up, there's one thing to cover, the lighting settings. This is kind of annoying to do, but it's fun once you get it working. You need to change the lighting a little bit. Great! Now that you've changed the lighting, copy all the settings of the lighting and put it in the lighting settings stuff like this if you find it in here. Oh, this is what I changed. Let's set it to that. Now whenever I load this area in and I enter this area, the lighting will look like it does when I change. Doesn't really matter what the studio lighting looks like because it'll just get set in the game. After you've added an area, you're gonna need a portal to access the area. So if I have this area over here, this wonderful area, I need a way to get in there. Preferably also a way to get out. So let's add a new portal. This is not a place I would put a portal, but we're in a tutorial video, so it doesn't really matter. So I'll set this stuff. I'll change the portal a little bit because I want to change it. It's gonna, oh yeah. So now you're gonna have two values to change: required rank and area to teleport to. Assuming that you've already made an area, you can set this area to teleport to right to that area you made. Whatever I call. Oh yeah, the required rank is the rank that you need to enter the area. That's it. Alright, after looking at the list, there's really only one more thing, and that's adding a shop and items for the shop. Now the easiest way to do this would be to duplicate a menu and mess with it. Don't duplicate the pawn shop because the pawn shop is where you sell stuff and you just don't change that. So let's say I want to duplicate the weapon shop. Duplicated. Now let's name it something. Uh, uh, Great, now that we have a new unique name, let's change the menu. So you'll find something called title. This is what the title of the menu will show up as. Right now it's weapons. Let's set it to cool. Everything else is automatic. Except for this part. You have to add your own items. Because it doesn't know what to put in the stuff. Lucky for you, there's plenty of items to use as templates. Unless you delete them all, then insert stuff. Insert a folder. The folder name has to be the name of an item in replicate storage.items. So this is called beginner bow. You will find in items that there is an item called beginner bow. So in that folder, you will need description, item type, and text color. Description must be a string value, item type must be a string value, but text color must be a color 3 value. This could be whatever color you want. It's a color. It's the color of the text. Item type, if it's weapon, it'll look for something in game that replicates the items. If it's armor, then the armor. Otherwise, description, this is whatever you want. I just kind of made something up here. It doesn't really make sense. But there's no way to open the menu. So in the workspace, you'll find something called menu triggers. You'll see that these are menus too. These have the bubbles. Make a new one. It has to be a ball. Whenever you touch this trigger, it will open the menu that the name is. So I have this menu named and Whenever you touch this ball, that menu will open. Don't worry, the ball will go invisible whenever you run the game. It's magic. That's everything, right? Um, uh, uh, Wait. So if you want to add armor, you're gonna need to go to replicate storage armor. You got all this stuff in here. Copy it, duplicate or whatever you want to call it. Call it something. You scroll down. This is the stuff you'll change. Body parts, and not the face or the head. I don't know how the face is the body part, but okay. So you don't have the IDs for this stuff. You're like, what? What? So what you're gonna need to do is go to Roblox and find something in the avatar shop. What that was called, catalog. I have this pulled up. You're gonna need to find a bundle or whatever they call it now as packages. I'm not sure. Well, you're gonna need to scroll down on this page. You see this body parts, all this stuff. I'm gonna copy the left arm, copy it. I'll paste it up here. I already pasted it. I'm gonna copy the ID of that. It's in the link. I copied the left arm. Let's go back to this. Paste the left arm. There's your thingy. That's armor. So you have armor in the replicate storage now. What you need to do is add it to the shop. You gotta have it in there. So it's called something. So let's make something called something. It's in the armor shop. Shop items, great. Description, whatever you want. Text, color, whatever you want. Item type, armor. That's the armor's